After 5 striking words, the millionaire froze when the poor delivery girl revealed an unexpected truth. Sarah stood on the marble steps of Tyler's opulent mansion, the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders as she balanced the special letter in her trembling hands. The sun glared off the polished surface, casting sharp shadows that danced around her anxious frame. Her heart raced not from the anticipation of the delivery, but from the humdrum reality of her life bills stacked on the counter at home, her mother's tired face, and the ever-watchful eyes of her younger brother, who looked to her for strength. Every day was a balancing act, an intricate dance of grit, struggle, and survival. A crack echoed in her chest as she captured the momentary luxury that surrounded her, feeling hopelessly out of place. With a deep breath, she pushed the door open, the cool air enveloping her as she stepped inside. Eavesdropping almost felt like an intrusion, but the hushed tones of 2 family members stopped her in her tracks. "It's not just the fortune, it's the legacy," one whispered, their voice laced with urgency. Tendrils of fear wrapped around Sarah's heart as she strained to hear more. Buried secrets, a family disgrace? Was this what wealth was built on? The letter in her grip felt heavier as she processed the implications. Tyler lived in a world bathed in luxuries she could hardly fathom. Yet there seemed to be a dark undercurrent coursing through his life. Was it possible they weren't that different after all? The thought made her stomach churn. Before she could process it further, she stepped back, her foot catching on the entrance rug, and the noise interrupted their conspiracy. Tyler, facing her, his jaw clenched, eyes flaring for just a moment before he masked them with indifference. She had no right to feel this way, and yet, the truth she overheard whispered like a siren call. Later that afternoon, Sarah found herself facing Tyler in the quiet of the foyer, their eyes locking for a fleeting moment that seemed to suspend time. Tension crackled in the air as if they were 2 mismatched puzzle pieces. How could she possibly tell him what she heard? "You don't know your truth," she blurted out, her voice far steadier than she felt. His expression hardened, caught between shock and offense. In that moment, their worlds collided, the privilege he wore like armor clashing against her daily fight for survival. Every breath felt charged. Did he even want to know? Did he care to confront the truth that lurked in his family like a lurking shadow? "Stay in your lane," Tyler shot back, but the words didn't pack the bite he expected. For an instant, doubt flitted across his face, raw and unguarded. The longing for authenticity hung in the air between them, heavy and fragile. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue." As thoughts raced through her mind, Sarah felt the clench of desperation for clarity. Could uncovering this legacy unravel everything Tyler had built? With every revelation, unease joined their budding connection. She was inexplicably drawn to him and terrified of what it might mean. Whispers tracked her every move. She was no longer just the delivery girl standing on his doorstep. Sarah clenched the letter, the truth of it like fire in her palms. The stakes were rising, and she was caught between loyalty to her family and the call of something more profound with Tyler. Could she stand firm when the ultimate revelation threatened to fracture his carefully constructed world? Truth. In the days that followed her explosive encounter with Tyler, Sarah found herself wrestling with a tide of emotions. Each passing moment felt like a delicate balance between trepidation and resolution. She had peeled back a layer of Tyler's existence, revealing a hidden complexity she could not fathom but desperately wanted to understand. It was the dichotomy of their lives that haunted her, the stark contrast between her struggles and his polished veneer. The letter tugged at her pocket like a weighty secret, that nagging pulse of responsibility and potential mingling inside her. It felt like a key to understanding him, yet with every thought about confronting Tyler, doubt flooded her mind. What if her assumptions were wrong? What if uncovering his truth meant shattering everything Tyler held dear? While her heart yearned for connection, a protective instinct urged her to retreat. After work, she sat in a small cafe, nursing a lukewarm cup of coffee. Her fingers drummed nervously on the table, thoughts racing through the labyrinth of her mind. The sullen air buzzed with conversation, but she felt cocooned in silence. What had once been a simple job now felt like a crossroads. Returning to her delivery route, every house, every door represented a decision to either shield or expose Tyler, the man who had unknowingly thrust her into a whirlwind of emotions. Across town, Tyler battled his own demons in the echo of Sarah's words. "You don't know your truth." They reverberated in his mind, a haunting refrain that caught on replay. He was used to being in control, the architect of his life and decisions, yet something about Sarah's assertion lodged itself deep within him. Was he really so shielded from the harsh realities cloaked beneath the surface of privilege? That evening, he found himself pacing around his lavish living room, the lavish furniture stark reminders of the isolation wealth often curated. Each echo of footfalls bounced off the walls, taunting him with questions he had long buried. The scrutiny of his family legacy loomed larger than life, a specter haunting his every thought. A scream of discontent awakened in him, a longing to discover what lay beyond the gilded cage. Driven by a newfound determination, Tyler made a decision. If there was something buried in the folds of his family's reputation, it was time to confront it. He would reach out to his estranged uncle, the family black sheep who held the key to their past. Information was power, and he was tired of his life being viewed through a veneer of illusions. Perhaps this raw approach could bridge the chasm between him and Sarah. Meanwhile, Sarah resolved to no longer be just a passive observer to her circumstances. Hours spent analyzing her life's trajectory sparked a flicker of rage tinged with hope. She hadn't fought against the current her whole life to let fear dictate her next steps. It was time to act. She drafted a message to Tyler, tentative yet defiant, a call to confront the shadows together. "Let us meet. We need to talk about what comes next," it read, a stir of conviction buoying her spirit. Just as she sent it, her phone buzzed. Tyler was already streaming through her thoughts, yet here he was, initiating a conversation before she could pull him further into her world. The juxtaposition of their realities met again, the foundations beginning to shift beneath them. As Sarah stepped outside, the sky darkened, mirroring the tumult in her heart. Each decision wove a tighter bond of purpose and anxiety. They both stood at the edge of discovery, teetering between complicity in each other's life struggles and the desire for belonging. The looming reality of their next meeting pressured the air, and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that a storm was brewing. Would either of them be ready for the revelations that were about to surface? The stakes escalated, promising a confrontation with truths that could alter the pathways of both their lives forever. Truth. The following day crackled with an electric anticipation, the sense of an inevitable shift heavy in the air. Sarah arrived at their agreed meeting spot, a quiet park bench shadowed by whispering trees, the soft rustle amplifying her apprehension. She wore her uncertainty like a well-worn coat, each thread of doubt wrapped tightly around her as she waited. The world around her blurred, and her focus honed in on the minutiae, the way the afternoon sun filtered through the leaves, the laughter of children playing in the distance. These comforts felt distant now. Her own inner storm brewed with greater intensity. A wave of resentment washed over her as she considered the vast differences in their worlds. Tyler had been so insulated from pain, while she had been carved and shaped by every hardship. The thought was both infuriating and liberating. Shouldn't they both have the agency to embrace their truths? Yet, the idea of revealing her vulnerabilities laid heavy on her heart. It felt like a gamble. Either they would share a common ground or the chasm between them would only deepen. Just then, Tyler approached, his usually poised demeanor shadowed by an air of uncertainty. She noticed a crack in the polished shield he typically adorned. It was as if the weight of her words had ripped through some invisible barrier. He paused, taking a tentative breath as his gaze met hers. They had both found themselves shrouded in the uncertainty of their circumstances, but in that moment, clarity flickered faintly like a candle in a tempest. "Thanks for meeting me," he offered, his voice steady, but the depth of his eyes betrayed the tumult beneath. "Of course," she replied, the tension coiling tighter yet. "We need to talk about everything." He nodded, and she could sense the way he was bracing himself. "I have questions. So many questions. But before that, you were right about something." The admission hung in the space between them, thick and pulsing. "I've been avoiding my truth for so long. I'm not even sure what it is anymore." A mixture of surprise and relief washed over Sarah. He dared to dive into the murky waters of introspection, and she wondered if this was what she had awakened in him. How do you even start? Her voice trembled with both curiosity and fear. Facing it means taking down everything you've built around yourself. Let us figure it out together, Tyler said simply, a statement laden with potential. He didn't flinch at the enormity of her words. Instead, he leaned closer, his eyes searching for something in hers, an unspoken promise that whispered of solidarity. Sarah's chest tightened at the thought of exposing her vulnerabilities next. What could she offer him? What did she know about truth beyond her daily survival? The pretense of her own life felt fragile, as if it would splinter at the slightest pressure. Before I can help you, I must confront my truth too, she whispered, the tension of the moment weaving their fates together. I've been defined by my circumstances, locked in a routine. But I want more than just survival. I want to thrive. The admission felt like stepping off a ledge, free-falling into the abyss. She expected fear, but instead warmth enveloped her. Her vulnerability didn't just reveal her weaknesses. It announced her strengths, the resilience she had cultivated despite the weight of her past. There they were, two individuals standing at the precipice of vulnerability, unwrapping the layers of their lives like presents, exposing raw nerves with each passing moment. Then let us discover those truths one step at a time, he replied, and for the first time she saw a flicker of hope in his gaze. But just as the moment of connection threatened to solidify, a text buzzed through Tyler's phone. His face fell, transforming from open expression to instant concern. It's my uncle, he said in disbelief, glancing back up at her as if time had slipped. He says he has something to share, something I need to hear today now. Her heart raced, threading them once more into the unknown. Sarah fought the urge to ask more, sensing the cracks in their newfound alliance beginning to fracture. What awaited Tyler in that conversation? What truths could unravel the fragile bond they were just beginning to forge? Are you ready for what comes next? Sarah challenged gently, her voice trembling with the weight of unspoken realizations. He paused, the world around them fading as decisions loomed before them like shadows. Today we'll confront more than just our realities, Tyler said, determination in his eyes. The time had come to face the truth together. The air shifted as Tyler's focus pulled away, consumed by whatever urgency lay behind that text. Sarah struggled to draw him back into their shared moment, the vulnerability they had begun to unveil now hanging suspended like a fragment of glass, ready to shatter. The space between them felt palpable, heavy with unspoken words as Tyler's gaze flickered between the screen and her eyes. Tyler, she said softly, coaxing him back to her. What does he want? I'm not sure, he replied, his brow furrowing. It sounds serious though. She swallowed a surge of anxiety. The conversation they had been gearing up for was slipping from her grasp, the tide of uncertainty pulling her deeper into anxiety. What would happen to the momentum they had built? How could they hope to uncover their truths if fate was hellbent on scattering them? Maybe it's important. You should take the call, Sarah suggested, though her heart sank. No, he said firmly. I can't let this timeline dictate our moment. We owed this to ourselves. Still, doubt curled around his conviction. She could see his internal struggle, the desire to maintain what they'd barely begun to cultivate. Yet the weight of familial obligation pressing against him like a boulder, she felt her own insecurities swell. How much could she ask of him? It was then she made a choice. Maybe we could tackle it together, she proposed, her words almost escaping her before fully forming. Whatever it is, perhaps it can't wait. And maybe it's part of uncovering our truths, yours and mine. Tyler's eyes met hers, and she read the mixture of hope and caution playing across his features. I didn't think of it that way, he admitted, his fingers hovering over his phone. The breathing space between them shifted once more, vibrant with the potential for discovery, and that instant, Tyler clicked the button, lifting the phone to his ear. Uncle Joe, he said, his voice steady. Sarah sensed the tremor beneath it, the reverberations of unease juxtaposed with his attempt at composure. She focused on his expression, the way his jaw tightened with each piece of information. His uncle's voice relayed a message, a name she couldn't hear through the veil of distance. Instinctively, Sarah held her breath. After a pause, Tyler's expression altered, the resolve in his face giving way to shock. What do you mean he's bankrupt? Each word sliced through the atmosphere, heavy with implications. An unsettling spiral of thoughts raced through Sarah's mind. How would this revelation change their interaction? Would it derail their burgeoning bond before it had even formed? Why didn't you tell me? Tyler pressed, his voice strained. As the conversation continued, Sarah's own thoughts diverged into the complexity of truth. What if his uncle's financial collapse was tied to the very identity Tyler had been so adamant about preserving? Were they both brushing against vulnerabilities that could unravel each other's lives as quickly as they had begun to weave them together? Hearing Tyler's rising dismay stirred an understanding within her. Here they were, two individuals grappling with their truths in an increasingly messy world. She recognized now that personal revelation wasn't just about peeling away layers for oneself. It was about supporting one another through the chaotic evolution. As he hung up, the new silence settled like a storm cloud, oppressive yet rife with possibilities. I don't know what this means, he stammered, blinking rapidly as though waking from a dream. Neither do I, Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the tumult raging inside her. But it's a truth we can't overlook. They stood on that precipice again, not just of vulnerability, but of confrontation, the kind that could unravel the threads of their individual lives or bind them together in a new, incomprehensible way. Tyler looked at her, a storm brewing in his eyes tinted with a hint of desperation. What if this changes everything? Sarah swallowed her own fears, an ember of resilience igniting from deep within. Then we change with it. We're both seeking a truth. What's revealed here might just lead us to the answers we need. A silence followed, laden with the weight of their shared uncertainties. The bond was being tested, and she could feel both the peril and the promise in it. They had cast their nets into tumultuous waters, and now as the waves surged, she wondered if they could withstand the currents together. Unbeknownst to them, the next moments might collide their past pains and reveal hidden strengths neither had anticipated. The phone buzzed again, and a new message flashed ominously, pulling Tyler's attention once more. I have to check this, he muttered, hands trembling as he swiped the screen. Wait, Sarah breathed, sensing the pulse of events spiraling. What if this is the moment that leads us to everything we're meant to discover? What lay ahead beckoned like a beacon, or perhaps a darkness, or both, as the call of uncovering truths loomed ominously, ready to fracture or fortify them. The tension in the air thickened as Tyler fixed his gaze on the phone, his mind grappling with a whirlwind of possible outcomes. He took a deep breath, trying to steel himself against the unease clamoring for attention. Each ping of the notification felt like a disruptive reminder of the conversation that had just unraveled his sense of stability. Do you want to read it? Sarah's voice broke through the haze, and Tyler glanced up, surprised at her resilience. She was pushing through her own fears to confront the unknown, and that ignited something in him. Maybe it'll help put things into perspective, he said, the flicker of hope igniting in his chest. This was a moment that could redefine who they were, together or apart. With a trembling hand, he swiped to unlock the message. A surge of dread pooled in the pit of his stomach as he read the words on the screen. Uncle Joe's been making poor investments. He's counting on us now. Beneath the shock, the weight of expectation pressed heavily on his shoulders. Us? Tyler echoed softly, the reality settling like a boulder in his chest. The burden of his uncle's financial collapse wasn't solely his to bear, but the idea of dragging someone else into the chaos felt overwhelmingly insurmountable. Yes, you and me, Sarah clarified, her tone steady and yet filled with an unyielding determination. We can face this together. You're not alone in this, Tyler. The warmth of her words struck through his doubts, illuminating a different path. This wasn't merely a crisis, it was an opportunity for collaboration, to redefine what they meant to each other. There was a nascent partnership building, and here was the moment to nurture it. What do we do? He asked, vulnerability lacing his voice. He was, in fact, ready to confront this abyss with her at his side, knowing that navigating the uncertainty together could lead to uncharted territories of growth. We figure out how to help Uncle Joe. We gather what we can, and we strategize around it, Sarah proposed, her eyes sparkling with resolve. It's a chance to reshape how you view your family dynamics. As she spoke, she exuded a palpable strength, and Tyler felt a surge of admiration for her unwavering spirit. But buried within him was also the fear of failure and abandonment. The thought of volunteering to step fully into this chaotic situation terrified him. What if his own weaknesses began to leak into their plans? Are you sure you want to get involved? He questioned, his voice barely above a whisper. The last thing he wanted was for her to feel trapped in a saga that wasn't her own. This could be messy. Exactly, she said, leaning in closer, her eyes scanning his for understanding. Life is messy, Tyler. It's what makes growth real. But we can't let the mess cloud our judgment. You don't have to carry this alone anymore. Let us reshape our narratives. Her words resonated deeply, coaxing out a new resolve. He had spent so long trying to uphold the illusion of control, but embracing vulnerability with her might just reveal the strength he never knew he possessed. What if we start talking to Joe together? Tyler suggested, feelings of excitement mingling with fear as he envisioned a new path. A collaborative journey deeper than he had ever imagined. Yes, let us create a plan first, outline the steps we need to take. Maybe we can even draw on others to help if necessary, Sarah added, her tone igniting Tyler's own determination. We can explore resources to support Uncle Joe in finding a way back, while also navigating your relationship with him. As they began to brainstorm practical approaches, a sense of clarity emerged from his swirling thoughts. Each proposal, suggestion, and rebuttal felt more cohesive in Sarah's presence. They were not just facing a trial. They were articulating their shared truths. Yet in the distance something loomed. The deeper he delved into this familial abyss, the more he felt the weight of past grudges resurfacing. Would confronting his uncle about old patterns invite resentment? Tyler's heart raced as he ventured further down this path with Sarah, feeling a mixture of excitement and trepidation. They were on the brink of something profound, a redefining of not just their individual experiences but their connection to Sarah. He interrupted suddenly, his voice a raw whisper. What if the secrets reveal more than we bargained for? What if confronting Joe exposes more cracks in our foundations? She placed her hand reassuringly on his. That's the risk we must take. But fear isn't a reason to retreat. It's an invitation to redefine us. With a shared breath, they prepared to face the looming challenges together, their alliance stronger, but the world around them still having secrets held tight and dark corners waiting to be unearthed. As they solidified their resolve, another message chimed. The storm was only beginning to brew. What now? Tyler asked, his heart pounding with anticipation and uncertainty. Let us find out, Sarah replied, her voice steady as they glanced at the screen together, preparing for whatever truth emerged next. The message blinked ominously on the screen, lingering like a shadow that demanded to be addressed. Tyler's apprehension blossomed anew as he glanced at Sarah. There was unwavering determination in her expression, a stark contrast to the whirlwind of emotions churning within him. Should we open it? He asked, reluctant to unearth even more uncertainty. We need to know, she replied, her voice firm, urging him forward. The moment felt pivotal. It was the kind of crossroads that defined character. Underneath the surface of anxiety, Tyler started to feel the stirrings of ambition. This was their chance to not only confront family issues, but also to challenge himself in ways he never imagined. After another deep breath, he swiped the notification. The words blurred for a moment, but Tyler concentrated, focusing on the message that would shape their next steps. Meet me tomorrow at noon. We need to discuss everything. Uncle Joe. A wave of betrayal mixed with dread itched at his conscience. Tyler's relationship with his uncle had always been rocky. Joe was a complex figure in his life, part mentor, part cautionary tale. Their conversations had been riddled with unspoken tensions and unresolved issues. What could possibly lead to a meeting on such short notice, especially concerning a financial crisis? Do you think he'll take accountability? Tyler muttered, the shadow of doubt creeping back. Consider this an opportunity for communication, Sarah encouraged. He might not be the same man you remember, especially now. Allow him to show you who he is today. Her words struck him, igniting a realization. This was about reclaiming his narrative, stepping beyond inherited grief, and allowing room for transformation even if it came disguised as chaos. Okay, he decided, feeling the gravitational pull of change. Let us go. Let us discuss how we can help. Plans formulated quickly between them. An impromptu strategy session sparked ideas about gathering resources and creating a supportive environment for Uncle Joe. Tyler felt more than just action steps building. He sensed his mental gears clicking into place. Yet beneath the surface of this forward momentum lay the weight of familial guilt and a long-cherished fear of inadequacy. What if his best wasn't enough? What if their plans crumbled under the pressure, revealing more fractures in their lives? As they outlined the steps, each suggestion became a stone laid in the foundation of their collective journey. With each shared idea, Tyler felt the burgeoning belief that he could lead not just for himself, but for Sarah and Uncle Joe too. They would pool their resources and knowledge to confront the impending storm. Suddenly, memories churned their family gatherings, the stories Joe shared, the laughter he remembered, and the anger that had since grown. All those secrets, the ones that Tyler had buried under layers of resentment, came flooding to the surface. He'd always seen Uncle Joe as a figure tainted by failure and shame, a reflection he didn't want to acknowledge. But now he had an opportunity to break that perception, to redefine their connection, even if it meant probing the past. Tyler? Sarah's gentle inquiry interrupted his thoughts. Are you ready? With a nod, he felt the tide of determination rise. The thought of facing Uncle Joe filled him with trepidation, yet it was laced with a new resolve. The call to confront discomfort became a propelling force, urging him forward into the unknown. As they packed their things and prepared to leave, Tyler's heartbeat quickened once more. What awaited them on the other side of this chaos? Let us just take it one step at a time, he reassured himself, fortified by Sarah's unwavering presence. The drive to Joe's was a blur of conflicting emotions, thoughts racing between potential outcomes and the secrets hidden in his uncle's past. As they pulled up to Joe's dilapidated house, tinged with years of neglect, a new question emerged, rippling through his determination. Was his resilience enough to uncover truths that might shatter his perceptions forever? The doubt lingered unbearably, yet it was time to challenge himself and confront what lay beyond the threshold. Ready? Sarah asked, instinctively grabbing his hand. Let us see what we find, Tyler replied, tension wrapped around every word as they stepped into the chaos, ready to unravel the mysteries waiting inside. The door creaked open with a reluctant sway, its age betraying years of abandonment, a metaphor for the fragile state of his relationship with Uncle Joe. Walking forward, Tyler felt Sarah's presence strengthen him, a steady shield against the uncertainties that loomed. Inside, the air hung heavy with dust and unspoken feelings. Remnants of the past, a clock stuck at a time long gone, faded photographs leaning against walls whispered tales of better days. But they were not just memories to Tyler, they were the building blocks of his fear. Each step deeper into the house felt like a descent into his unresolved resentment, emotions coiling tight within him. Uncle Joe? He called out, the sound hollowing against the walls. A moment later, a shuffle emerged from the back room, followed by a frail voice. Tyler? Is that you? Joe appeared weary and worn, yet there was something vulnerable in his eyes. Tyler's insides clenched at the sight. This man had once been a towering figure in his life, a blend of wisdom and failure. Seeing him now, diminished and uncertain, sent jolts of conflicting emotions coursing through Tyler. Yeah, it's me, Tyler replied, his voice barely steady. He glanced at Sarah, whose encouraging expression steadied him. Hope you received my message. Message? Joe's eyes flickered with confusion, then recognition dawned. Oh yes, we need to talk. The three of them settled into mismatched chairs around a small table that seemed barely able to support the weight of their unspoken truths. Tyler's heart raced as he observed Joe's demeanor, slumped shoulders, restless fingers, a gaze that avoided solid contact. The air crackled with tension, mingling anticipation and dread. Why now? Tyler pressed, the question bursting forth. After all this time, why do you want to talk? Joe inhaled deeply, a weary exhale escaping his lips like a whisper of regret. I've been thinking a lot about my past, my failures. I haven't been the best uncle or role model. I need to own up. Tyler's chest clenched. The words felt weighty, yet they were only the surface of a deeper rift begging to be explored. What do you mean by owning up? I left things a mess. I didn't protect you or your family when I should have. Joe's admission came slowly, burdened with years of guilt. I had my own demons, but that's no excuse. I need to make it right. The moment hung delicately, anchored by a gravity Tyler had always avoided. Did he want Joe to shoulder the blame? Or could he find some common ground? How can you make it right? he challenged, not wanting to go easy. But deep inside, Tyler felt a critical shift. The static of anger that had defined his memories of Joe began to dissipate, replaced by a flicker of possibility. Perhaps they could forge a connection anew, one built on honesty instead of distance. Joe's gaze met his, cracking open an avenue to vulnerability. I know I can't change the past, but I want to help. I'd like to get back on my feet, and maybe, just maybe, his voice wavered. Maybe you could allow me a chance to show you I've changed. The depth of Joe's sincerity stirred something within Tyler. It was more than just a plea for forgiveness, it was an invitation to confront the crux of his fears. What if you fall again? Tyler questioned, fear clawing at his resolve. What if I invest in you and it becomes another disappointment? Silence followed, heavy and contemplative. Joe's eyes darkened as he held Tyler's gaze, the truth hanging palpably between them. Here was the pivotal moment. A reckoning not just for Joe but for Tyler as well. I guess that's life, Joe finally replied. Taking risks and hoping for better days. We're all just trying to figure it out, right? But Tyler questioned whether his hope alone could overcome years of betrayal and disappointment. As the conversation continued, Tyler felt his internal landscape shift. The boundaries of his resentment began to blur. He understood he stood at a threshold, one that called for resilience not just from Joe but from himself. Maybe we start small, Tyler suggested, his voice barely above a whisper, yet resonating with emerging strength. I'm willing to navigate this if you're truly committed. But be ready. I won't tolerate any more empty promises. Joe nodded solemnly, understanding the weight of the agreement. As they exchanged tentative plans, Tyler realized the road ahead would require navigating the uncharted waters of trust and vulnerability. He felt the stirrings of hope entangled with caution as he recognized that this journey was as much about his growth as it was about Joe's. And as they began to sketch out a path forward, a new anxiety rolled over Tyler like a distant thunderstorm. What specific choices would define this new chapter? Could he navigate the emotional turmoil lying ahead while also learning to lead? As long as we communicate, we'll make it, he reassured, though he felt the tremor of doubt seep through. But in that moment, the commitment to face discomfort is what fortified his spirit, even as shadows of uncertainty loomed. Tomorrow then, Joe agreed, a flicker of hope unraveling in his words. Tyler felt the reality of this engagement sink in. What if Joe's attempts were genuine, or worse, what if they were not? He would need to forge ahead carefully. But the horizon now held a glimmer of potential. The challenge was set before him, a test of resolve and faith. The commitment to see it through was there. Yet Tyler couldn't shake the unease resting like an ember. Would this act of engagement offer opportunity, or pull apart the frayed connections that held their fragile family together? With that question gnawing at him, he found himself standing on the precipice of his own transformation, a realization dawning within him. It didn't just concern Uncle Joe's redemption, it delved deeply into his own. But could Tyler endure what lay ahead? As this new chapter unfolded, the weight of each decision loomed larger than either could anticipate. Together they would have to navigate uncharted territory where nothing and everything hung in the balance, a precarious dance waiting to take form. Tyler spent the night turning over the day's conversations in his mind like stones, examining each facet, searching for clarity in their jagged edges. He felt restless, the remnants of uncertainty coiling tightly in his gut. The looming meeting with Joe felt like both a beacon of hope and a potential pitfall. He had committed to navigating their relationship's murky waters, but the deeper he considered it, the darker his doubts grew. Morning came with a sharpness that felt both invigorating and unwelcoming. As the sun spilled through his window, illuminating a space that had slowly filled with a sense of purpose against the backdrop of his misgivings, Tyler knew he had to approach the day with intention. Dressing in a simple button-up shirt, he caught a glimpse of himself in the mirror. The unresolved conflict reflected back at him weighed heavily. Who was he becoming in this dynamic? Would he finally become the man capable of cultivating relationships rather than simply bearing the emotional scars? He arrived at Uncle Joe's house with mixed anticipation and dread. The scent of grease from the nearby diner wafted through the air, mingling with the smell of earth and wood, an olfactory reminder of his childhood. Would he be able to connect with Joe, or would he leave today with even more doubt than before? As he approached the door, Each step felt like a commitment to facing the uncomfortable truth of his family's history. Joe opened the door with the same frail demeanor he'd shown the day before, and for a brief moment Tyler hesitated. He fought to keep his expression neutral, yet felt the rise of agitation simmering just below the surface. "Good morning," he offered tentatively, trying to gauge Joe's mood as they settled into the same mismatched chairs. "Morning, Tyler," Joe responded, accepting a cup of coffee with hands that trembled slightly. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes about the man sitting across from him, fragile, and still reconstructing the pieces of his own life. "I appreciate you coming. Let us get into it, then," Tyler urged, the firmness in his voice contrasting with the vulnerability he felt swirling within. "I want to understand exactly how you plan to make things right." Joe's brows knitted together, but the sincerity in his eyes remained unyielding. "I know I've made mistakes and I can't change what happened, but I want to earn your trust back. I've started attending therapy, something I should have done a long time ago. I want to be a better man, not just for me, but for you and everyone I've let down." Tyler considered Joe's words, grappling with the impulse to ask more but also the fear of opening another can of worms. "Therapy is a start, but it's not enough. I need to know you're willing to put in the work consistently. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight." "I understand," Joe replied, his voice steadying. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes, even if that means starting from the bottom and earning back your confidence day by day." The challenge lingered in the air, sparking a tension between hope and doubt. Tyler felt an inkling of something resembling respect thread through his thoughts, but shadows lurked. How could he trust that Joe wouldn't regress into old patterns? If this endeavor was to be real, there would have to be a level of accountability beyond shared words. "Tell me about these sessions. What have you learned so far?" Tyler pressed, curious but unconvinced. Joe leaned forward, his expression earnest. "We've focused on my failures, the drinking, the avoidance, the way I cut ties instead of fostering them. I realize now it was easier to escape than to confront my responsibilities. But I want to embrace what I've avoided." An ember ignited in Tyler's chest. Here was Joe stripped bare before him, revealing layers of regret and a desire for redemption. That's a strong realization. But confronting what you've avoided requires sustained commitment, and I'm not just talking about showing up to therapy. You need to show up for yourself, for your family. Are you comfortable walking alongside me on that journey?" Joe asked, his voice vulnerable. It was a simple question but laden with implication. Could Tyler truly engage in this endeavor, not just as a facilitator for Joe's growth, but as a participant in their evolving relationship? "Maybe," he answered, choking back the knot that threatened to rise in his throat. It felt precarious, this positioning between hope and apprehension. A realization washed over him. This wasn't merely about Joe changing. It was equally about Tyler figuring out how to hold space for both dignity and disappointment. "I want to. The foundation is fragile, but we need to make a plan," Tyler asserted, drawing from a well of determination that had begun to fill him amid the uncertainty. And as they began outlining specific goals, a pulse of urgency thrummed in the air. The work they were embarking upon would demand both of them to wrestle with their fears and insecurities. Would they be able to withstand the inevitable challenges that lay ahead? Standing on this precipice, Tyler realized the stakes were far greater than either of them had anticipated. Each word exchanged forged an unsteady bridge between past failures and a future that felt tantalizingly close yet hauntingly distant. As they delved deeper into setting plans, Tyler's determination grew to face personal demons he hadn't fully acknowledged. What were his hidden fears about trust? What facades had he built around himself? Today marked the beginning of a journey that could either heal both of them or spiral into larger conflicts. And as those thoughts twisted in his mind, Tyler sensed a deeper revelation unfolding. His journey would not only be about Joe's path to redemption but the hard work required for his own transformation. What would he uncover within himself as they navigated this intricate web of trust and responsibility? The weight of this new awareness pressed against him. As he committed to leap forward, the unknown stretched endlessly before him. Tyler and Joe found themselves lost in a productive exchange, the air around them shifting from tension to tentative optimism. As they mapped out plans for Joe's growth, each suggestion from Tyler was met with gratitude and humility from Joe. But with every step they took toward accountability, Tyler felt shadows of his own vulnerabilities creeping into his consciousness. While Joe's path was laid before them, Tyler wrestled with the reality that facing his own past was finally unavoidable. What had he buried in the depths of his mind, hollowed out by silence and avoidance? He scribbled notes, delineating mutual goals like a map toward uncharted territory. "Let us meet weekly to check in on each other," Tyler proposed, the idea forming as he spoke. "Accountability works both ways. I need to know you're serious, but I also need to reinforce my own commitment to trust." "Absolutely," Joe replied, a grim determination lining his features. "I'll share my progress and you can tell me about your struggles as well. We both need to be open about our needs and setbacks." "Okay, then let us start." Tyler's voice held unwavering resolve. Yet, as the conversation continued, he felt an uneasy flutter in his chest. The idea of seeking help and being vulnerable scared him more than it thrilled him. It was easy to encourage Joe toward strength and resilience, yet Tyler understood that choosing the same for himself was a steeper climb. Could he truly voice his dissatisfaction and emotional scars without faltering? The notion of sharing his own fear amid Joe's admission felt like standing on the brink of a precipice, teetering on the edge of a long unknown fall. "Before we wrap this up," Tyler began, the words spilling out unbidden, "I want to talk about how difficult it is for me to trust again." Joe's brows furrowed and he nodded. "That's fair. Trust is a two-way street. It's hard for me to accept that I've hurt you and crossed boundaries, but I need to know how you feel, too." Tyler weighed his options, the walls he'd built around his feelings suddenly feeling constrictive. "I have always dealt with things on my own. I learned early on that vulnerability equates to weakness, and now I find it hard to share." "Vulnerability can actually be powerful," Joe countered, a light of understanding sparking in his eyes. "This is a shared journey. You're not alone anymore." Yet that sentiment left Tyler doubting whether he wanted to dismantle the fortifications of his heart. Gripping the edges of the chair, he fought against the impulse to deflect. How could he embrace vulnerability when all he'd known was self-reliance? "Can we talk about the things I don't want to face? The thoughts that keep me stuck?" Tyler pressed, his tone edging toward desperation. "Please do," Joe encouraged. "Sometimes I worry that I'm not equipped to support you, that I might let you down," Tyler confessed, the admission burning at his throat. Joe stiffened for a moment, then shifted slightly, as if better to meet Tyler's gaze. "You won T. This isn't just about me. We're both navigating uncharted waters." Yet with that acknowledgement came more daunting revelations. The mystery of his own emotional landscape unfurled before him. What if he realized he relied too heavily on Joe for validation? As they peeled back the layers of conversation, Tyler pondered if they were addressing Joe's issues, or if he was just clinging to this relationship as a means of grappling with his own unresolved past. Their dialogue had morphed into a cacophony of mutual fears, and Tyler was struck by the realization that their paths to healing might not be as distinguishable as he thought. Could they both emerge from this unyielding bond stronger? Or would they become entangled in each other's complexities, risking a suffocation that might dissolve all the progress they had made? "I want to do this," Tyler stated, each word a cautious step onto fragile ground. "But I need to set boundaries. I have to prioritize my well-being while helping you. Let us keep that in mind." Strategizing boundaries felt cruel against the backdrop of their burgeoning connection, yet Tyler found that he was learning the value of self-preservation, an essential weapon against the inclination to dive headfirst into emotional chaos. He faced Joe, who mirrored the look of trepidation Tyler felt. Time stretched out, thick with the weight of expectations and new commitments. Would both men find clarity in this intersection of trust and accountability? Would conviction empower Tyler not to lose himself in the shadows of others' pain? The potential for renewal sparked within him, but with it arose the fear of failure and possible ruin. As they wrapped up their discussion, Tyler felt as though they were standing at a crossroads of commitment and consequence. He sensed undeniable growth bubbling just beneath the layers of uncertainty, but it was no longer a simple proposition. He had to be ready to dig deeper, to confront not only Joe's history but also the buried fears within himself. As they stood, preparing to leave, Tyler realized the true work awaited him not just in guiding Joe toward recovery, but in confronting his own darkness. Would he muster the courage needed to face the harsh truths and latent fears he had long denied? The trembling edge of revelation loomed, leaving him with a simple, yet profound question hanging in the air. How difficult would it be to confront the parts of himself he'd long kept hidden? In the weeks that followed Tyler and Joe's initial uneasy reconnection, a palpable transformation began to unfold within both men. Each meeting brought new challenges, yet Tyler discovered an unexpected sense of empowerment at facing these uncertainties head-on. He realized that he was no longer just an observer in his story. He was the architect of his own redemption. Embracing vulnerability proved liberating. Tyler began to confide in Joe about his own fears, those long-held beliefs that he'd never be good enough, the anxiety that his efforts would always be flawed. "I feared being seen as weak," Tyler admitted during one meeting, tracing the scars of his upbringing. "The mask of strength felt like my armor, and I didn't know how to take it off." In response, Joe shared moments from his past that mirrored Tyler's struggles, instilling a notion that their shared vulnerabilities could bind them tightly instead of tearing them apart. The exchange of truth cemented their evolving bond. Tyler found himself not only granting Joe a chance at redemption, but also allowing himself the grace to be imperfect. There was a newfound clarity in unfolding conversations, as both men sought to lay down the burdens of their pasts like heavy cloaks that had restricted their growth. Over time, the conversations grew into strategies for confronting external challenges. They began drafting a plan to help Joe stabilize his finances. It wasn't just about resolving the immediate situation, but building a foundation that would allow Joe to reclaim agency over his life, a process that mirrored Tyler's own path to self-discovery. Tyler began to see Joe not as a source of disappointment, but as a fellow traveler in resilience. One afternoon, as they sat together mapping out the next steps, Tyler felt a surge of confidence wash over him. They designed a detailed financial recovery plan for Joe, incorporating budgeting, seeking professional assistance, and possibilities to regain his footing in society. The act of crafting that plan together felt monumental. Tyler felt his once tentative voice grow steadier, more assertive. "We'll begin with small, manageable goals and build from there. Accountability means showing up consistently not just to each other, but to ourselves," he stated, sure of his convictions. Joe looked at him, pride flickering in his gaze, a connection solidifying over shared resolve. On a turning point 3 months later, standing in front of the small, modest community center where Joe had secured a job, Tyler felt the weight of this journey settle within him. For the first time, Tyler sensed clarity over his aspirations. He had ventured beyond the confines of his fears. He was no longer just the person who can't trust, but the person who advocates for trust and transparency. As they celebrated Joe securing employment, Tyler felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The moment characterized not just Joe's victory but a testament to their shared journey and growth. Joe's newfound strength had indeed illuminated Tyler's own potential. The true significance of their experiences became apparent when Tyler stood up in front of a small group, Joe beside him. He addressed the audience gathered to support their local community transformation initiative, a project inspired by the very revelations they had journeyed through together. "Success doesn't exist only in how much we accomplish but in the courage we have to lift each other up when it feels like life is weighing us down," he articulated, feeling bold and collective energy swelling in the crowd. His voice no longer trembled with uncertainty but resonated confidently, echoing through the space. Forging this initiative felt electric, a step into a broader commitment to not only support Joe, but to instill hope in others struggling with obscured visions of their own potential. Tyler watched as smiles rippled through the audience, igniting an atmosphere of belonging, of shared experience, a community drawn into the essence of interconnectedness. The culmination of their pursuit wasn't a neatly packaged resolution, but an ongoing commitment to navigate their intertwined paths. Loving kindness replaced judgment. Strength became a shared experience rather than an isolating endeavor. Tyler had conquered not only the wall between himself and Joe but also the barriers he'd erected around his own heart. As he stepped down from that stage, a wave of pride surged through him. Tyler had not merely helped someone else reclaim their life. He had reclaimed his story, his identity, an extraordinary bond forged through shared uncertainty and ultimate triumph. Now, as they stood side by side, triumph woven into their present, Tyler smiled at Joe. The connection transformed, rooted in authenticity, resilience, and a careful acknowledgement of their pasts. A flicker of shared purpose encapsulated the moment, one that neither had anticipated but both had fought for. It was time to embrace the journey ahead. This moment marked more than just a milestone. It served as a defining chapter in Tyler's evolution. From the delicate balance of vulnerability and strength, he emerged not only whole but empowered, ready to face anything ahead. The transformation had been profound. He was no longer dictated by his past or held back by fear. He had proven that authentic support could forge paths where once there had been walls. Now, dear viewers, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on more exclusive emotional stories that inspire personal growth. Leave a like now to show your support and help us reach more hearts struggling with their own journeys. Comment below with your thoughts on Tyler and Joe's incredible resolution, and share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear this transformative story. Don't wait even one more second to spread the message of overcoming challenges through connection and support.